The first-class cabin buzzed with soft murmurs, punctuated by the occasional clink of crystal glasses. Passengers nestled into their opulent seats, scrolling absent-mindedly through their phones or savoring the taste of their complimentary drinks. No one suspected that this routine flight was about to become an experience they would never forget. At seat 3A, a woman sat by the window, her presence composed, her expression enigmatic. Her name was Evelyn Carter. She radiated quiet confidence, yet nothing about her outward appearance suggested wealth or power. And that was precisely how she wanted it. Evelyn wasn't just another privileged traveler indulging in luxury. She was the owner of the airline itself. But Elena Roberts, the lead flight attendant, had no idea who she was. An experienced professional known for her firm demeanor and meticulous standards, Elena was about to have her entire perception of the world shattered. As presents this gripping, true-to-life tale, ask yourself, how often do we judge others based on what we assume rather than who they truly are? Stay with us, because this flight is about to take an astonishing turn. The steady hum of the engines resonated through the cabin, blending seamlessly with hushed conversations and the crisp rustling of newspapers. In seat 3A, Evelyn Carter gazed out of the window, watching as the last of the luggage was carefully stowed below. She sat with an air of serene detachment. No extravagant jewelry, no entourage, no visible signs of influence. Just a sleek black turtleneck, tailored trousers, and a delicate gold bracelet gracing her wrist. Flying had become second nature to her. Each time she followed the same routine. No special requests, no grand gestures, no expectation of deference. She preferred to move through the world unnoticed, like any other passenger. But Elena Roberts saw her differently. With years of experience and an unyielding commitment to maintaining the exclusivity of first class, Elena had developed an instinct for detecting those who didn't belong. She glided through the aisle, her sharp eyes flicked over the passengers with practiced efficiency. Then she saw Evelyn. Something about the woman in 3A didn't sit right. Elena's pace slowed. Her trained gaze lingered. A moment's hesitation, then a decision. She stopped. "Excuse me, ma'am." Elena's voice was firm, controlled, but beneath it lay a note of doubt. She tilted her head, scrutinizing Evelyn with barely veiled suspicion. "I need to see your boarding pass." Nearby passengers shifted slightly in their seats, sensing the sudden tension. No one else had been asked for their ticket. But Evelyn? She was being singled out. Evelyn blinked, momentarily taken aback. Her eyes swept the cabin. No one else was undergoing this scrutiny. But she didn't protest. Instead, with quiet dignity, she reached into her handbag, retrieved the small slip of paper, and extended it to Elena without a word. Elena studied the boarding pass carefully. First class, seat 3A. Everything was in order, yet something inside her refused to accept it. A gnawing disbelief twisted within her. "Are you sure this is your seat?" Elena asked again. Her voice was measured, polite even, but the doubt was unmistakable. Evelyn inhaled deeply, steadying herself. She had been here before, this moment of unspoken accusation, the weight of a stranger's misplaced assumptions pressing down on her. She met Elena's gaze and responded, her voice calm but unwavering. "That's what the ticket says." Evelyn met Elena's gaze with an unreadable expression, her voice as even as her posture. "That's what the ticket says." For a fraction of a second, Elena hesitated, just long enough for the discomfort to settle, for the weight of the moment to shift and press against the air around them, just long enough for people to notice. A few rows away, David Langston, a seasoned businessman with a sharp eye for power dynamics, slowly lowered his champagne glass. His gaze locked onto the exchange. His curiosity piqued. Across the aisle, Mia Reynolds, absent-mindedly flipping through a magazine, let her eyes drift over the top of the pages, her expression betraying nothing. Yet she was watching. They all were. The silence carried an unspoken expectation. Evelyn extended her hand, her movements graceful but deliberate. "If there's an issue," she said, her voice unwavering, "I'd like my ticket back for just a second." Elena's fingers tightened around the slip of paper, her grip briefly possessive, as though she were holding on to more than just a boarding pass. Then with a forced exhale, she released it. "Enjoy your flight," she said, her voice clipped, her words lacking warmth. She turned sharply and strode away. Evelyn tucked the ticket back into her bag, inhaling deeply before releasing a slow, measured breath. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. An hour passed. The plane had reached its cruising altitude, and the initial tension had seemingly dissolved into the quiet monotony of long-haul travel. Some passengers lost themselves in movies. Others dozed, their heads tilted against plush seats, while a few idly flipped through in-flight magazines. The moment had passed, or so Evelyn thought. Then Elena returned. This time her movements were different, sharper, more decisive. No longer the practiced grace of a seasoned professional, but the rigid determination of someone unwilling to let something go. She stopped at 3A, her presence a sudden force, shifting the atmosphere of the cabin once again. "I need you to come with me," she said. Evelyn looked up, calm yet alert. Her tone remained poised, but her eyes sharpened. "Excuse me." Elena's arms folded tightly across her chest. "We need to have a conversation. In private." Passengers who had been disengaged now sat up just slightly, their ears tuning in. This wasn't a casual request. This was something else. Evelyn removed an earbud and placed it in her lap. "If there's something you need to say, you can say it here." Elena's nostrils flared. Her voice lost all pretense of professionalism. "This isn't a discussion." Evelyn's expression didn't change. She remained completely still, her energy unreadable. "And if I don't?" Elena's jaw tightened, her hands clenched. Then, the words that would unravel everything left her lips. "Then I'll have to involve security when we land." A murmur rippled through the cabin. David Langston, who had been nursing his drink, now set it down completely, his brow lifting. Passengers exchanged quick glances, their awareness shifting from passive curiosity to something far more pointed. Something was wrong. Just then, another figure approached. Hannah Whitman, young, fresh-faced, still new enough to question things. Her voice carried no suspicion, only uncertainty. "Is there a problem here?" Her gaze flickered between Elena and Evelyn. Before Evelyn could answer, Elena spoke for her. "She's refusing to cooperate," she said briskly. Hannah blinked, caught off guard. "With what?" For the first time, Elena hesitated. Evelyn's gaze remained steady. "She hasn't actually told me why she wants me to move," she said, her voice smooth but deliberate. "And I think we'd all like to hear it." Passengers leaned in, really listening now. Even those pretending not to watch couldn't resist the tension pulling them in. Hannah frowned, shifting uncomfortably. "Elena, what's going on?" Silence. Then Elena squared her shoulders, as though standing firmer in her belief would make it more real. "I don't believe she's supposed to be in this seat." A scoff came from a few rows back. Mia Reynolds, the woman with the magazine, shook her head, disbelief flashing across her face. "You've got to be kidding me." Hannah's face paled. "You already checked her ticket, Elena." Passengers began whispering. A quiet storm of murmurs spread through the cabin. Elena refused to back down. "I need to verify it again." Evelyn tilted her head slightly, not in surprise, but in something else. Understanding. With slow, deliberate movements, she reached into her bag, retrieved the slip of paper, and held it up for everyone to see. "Here," she said, her voice cool and unwavering. "Go ahead. Verify it again." Elena hesitated, just long enough for Hannah to act first. Without waiting, Hannah snatched the ticket before Elena could, her fingers moving with the urgency of someone who wanted the moment to be over. Her eyes flicked over the details, and when she exhaled, it was sharp, almost incredulous. "She's in the right seat." Passengers murmured louder now. A slow smirk curved David Langston's lips as he leaned back, watching it all unfold. Elena's fingers twitched, her throat bobbing as she swallowed. And then, she made her biggest mistake. She reached out and grabbed Evelyn's arm. A collective gasp rippled through the cabin. Several passengers stood up. Hannah's face drained of color. Elena's hand recoiled almost instantly, but too late. Evelyn tilted her head, not in anger, not in fear, in something much worse. Absolute control. Without a trace of urgency, she picked up her phone, pressed a single button, and lifted it to her ear. When she spoke, her voice was measured, controlled, unshakable. Gate control, this is Evelyn Carter, owner of Carter Airlines. There's been an incident on Flight 748. The entire cabin fell silent. Eyes widened, breaths hitched. And in that single deafening moment, Elena Roberts realized she had just destroyed her own career. For years, Elena had walked these aisles with unwavering authority. She had been the enforcer, the one who upheld the rules without question. But today, she had just broken them. Elena Roberts had walked through countless terminals before, but this time every step felt heavier than the last. The weight of her actions pressed against her chest, making it difficult to breathe. On either side of her, security officers escorted her forward, but they didn't need to lay a hand on her. The humiliation, the shame, it was enough to keep her moving. Whispers followed her as she left the plane. Some passengers shook their heads in disapproval, others exchanged knowing smirks, and many had their phones raised. Capturing the moment her downfall became something larger than just an incident on Flight 748. The story was already escaping beyond the confines of the aircraft, spreading in real time, reaching people who had never even set foot on that plane. She had witnessed airline employees being escorted out before. She never thought she would be one of them. And then, standing near the terminal exit, she saw her, Evelyn Carter. She wasn't angry. She wasn't smug. She was simply waiting. Their eyes met, and for the first time in her career, Elena felt something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Shame. Not because of what had happened to her, but because of what she had done to herself. Evelyn took a step forward, her movements effortless, her presence undeniable. There was no need to raise her voice. She already held all the power. "You're leaving so soon?" she asked, her tone smooth, almost amused. Elena swallowed hard. Her throat was dry. There was nothing left to say, no excuse she could offer, no defense that would hold. But Evelyn wasn't done. "You still don't get it, do you?" she asked, tilting her head ever so slightly. Elena's hands clenched into fists. "Get what?" Evelyn sighed, her expression unreadable. Then, with a quiet intensity that cut deeper than any raised voice ever could, she said, "This wasn't about a seating mistake. It wasn't about policy. It was about you." Elena's breath hitched. "You questioned me," Evelyn continued. "Not because I did something wrong, but because you didn't expect someone like me to belong there." The words hit like a blow to the gut. "You saw me sitting in first class," Evelyn said, her voice steady, her control absolute. "And you felt the need to remind me that it wasn't mine." Elena opened her mouth, but no words came. Because what could she say? Evelyn was right. Evelyn studied her for a long moment, as if deciding whether the woman standing before her was even worth the final truth she was about to deliver. Then, with a quiet finality, she said, "You didn't treat me like a customer." A pause, then, "You treated me like a mistake." The silence that followed was deafening. Elena felt it settle between them, felt it seep into her skin, heavy and irreversible. For 15 years, she had walked these aisles, enforcing rules, believing that authority gave her the right to dictate who belonged and who didn't. Now stripped of her uniform, her title, her career, she finally understood. Power was never about control, it was about respect, and she had lost both. Evelyn didn't need to say anything more. She turned, stepping into her waiting car, the door closing behind her with a quiet finality. And just like that, she was gone. Elena Roberts was no longer the enforcer. She was the cautionary tale. A lesson whispered in break rooms, a story passed from one employee to another. Proof that some mistakes don't just cost you your job. Sometimes they cost you everything, because Elena didn't just lose a position. She lost the trust that came with it. She lost the respect she once commanded. And worst of all, she lost the chance to be better before it was too late. This story isn't just about a flight attendant or an airline owner. It's about how we treat people, not based on what we assume about them, but based on who they actually are. So tell us, do you think Elena's punishment was fair? Should she have been given another chance? Or was this a lesson she needed to learn the hard way? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And if you want to see more powerful real-life stories like this, don't forget to Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to Real Life Stories. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and we need your help to get there. Thanks for watching. Until next time, treat people with respect, because you never know who's really sitting in first class.